everyone, this is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about the 4 levels of communication with spiritual beings. That means your spirit guides or angels or any other kind of benevolent beings that you're working with. These are the different ways that we perceive the communication, the guidance from them, and how to move forward. So we'll get into it in just a second. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell button so you get notifications every time I do new videos. And I have a free meditation down below, so be sure to go check that out. So level 1 is the layer of the subconscious, the sleeping, and the will. So spiritual beings are communicating through us through different impulses. It's not just like, oh, I just can hear this voice in my head talking to me. There's this subtlety to it because they are coming from high spiritual realms. So there's a different kind of communication that is possible, and these are the layers and the levels that we're going towards. So this is kind of the lowest level or the most kind of subconscious level, that way that they could perceive for you. So how this can manifest is by an impulse, an urge to take action or to do something through the will. And this can look like, oh, I'm feeling called to visit this certain place, right? And this is one of the reasons I moved to Sedona years and years ago, is because I felt this will impulse, this call, and where you don't quite know why, it's not conscious, you just know that you need to go and do that thing or go to that place or connect with that person. Whatever it is, you feel that movement to go do that. Now, level 2 is in the subconscious and it's in the dreaming realm. So this is where you might have an actual dream of this certain person or this insight or this inspiration, and you still don't know where it's coming from exactly, but you did receive an inspiration, and this is often tied also to emotion. So that's why this can be very impactful in the dream, where you have this vivid emotional dream and it moves you in some way. This can also look like if you meet someone and there's this feeling that you know them, there's this kindred spirit energy, but you might not be at the place where you're like, oh, I remember our past life here and da 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 da. You just know there's this feeling of connection, and this feeling impulse is one of the ways that higher spiritual beings, your spiritual guides, your angels, can deliver information, is through this means. Now, as I'm saying these different levels, I really want to drive home the point that however you're perceiving is amazing. Okay, the fact that you're perceiving and that you're getting information from higher spiritual realms or from your higher self in any way is profound. And I see a lot of people, especially when I was doing sessions, where they would be like, yeah, no, nothing's happened. I'm like, well, did you have a dream? And then there's like, yeah. And by the end, it's like, oh yeah, I had this dream and it told me to do this thing and it was forgotten about. And this can be because we invalidate it. We're like, yeah, that's not really that important. Or on the other hand, where you just forget about it. And so this is where it's really essential. I have a video about this, so you can click and watch it, to document your spiritual experiences, because this is all subtle. And especially when we're speaking on this level 2 in the dreaming realm, by the time you get up and brush your teeth, you might even have forgotten that you met your angel in your dreams. Like, that's the level of it, where it is so, we're wanting to merge these realities, and it's so subtle that it can fall away from our conscious mind and our everyday living and be hard to make it into this reality. So actually writing down and documenting and honoring the experiences and the impulses and the perceptions that you're having is the best way to have more, and the best way to make them more conscious. So be kind with yourself as you're going along with this and you're like, well, darn it, I haven't had these yet. And it's like, you can't have these next levels without honoring these other ones first. And I will say, even for myself, it's been a journey getting here. And now I'm getting to these other levels of perception because I've followed the call, the will impulse. I've followed the inspiration of the emotions of my dreams. And so now, moving on to level 3, is perceiving it awake and conscious. So this is getting an actual thought, an actual inspiration that is kind of a conceptual download of whatever it is. You're like, oh my God, like an insight, an understanding about something. And the thing is this can come through where you're just like, I had this insight. And it could have been delivered by your guardian angel or by your spirit guide or by your higher self. But the idea is that you got some kind of conscious understanding, insight, or thought form around a certain something. And this is very important to develop, because I think in the general New Age community, it's just like, well, I felt, and I'm just having the light language go through me. But actually, where we are in this time of spiritual development is we really want things to be conscious and to bring our mind into it and to bring clarity and awareness forward in all of the engagements, definitely, that we're having with the spiritual world and in our everyday life. So if you can, for instance, with the light language example, if you can actually know what it means, that's going to be even more profound than just the vibrations coming through, which is more of that subconscious feeling aspect. So bringing it to consciousness is going to be very significant. Another example of this, so you can get examples, is I one day woke up with a complete clear inspiration that I needed to do spiritual retreats around the world. And literally I woke up and I wrote out a full itinerary for my first Sedona spiritual retreat, and I felt that it was coming from somewhere else, from my higher self, and it was like, you need to do this, here's the template, go. And so that would be an example. In this one, you might not know where it was coming from, but you got that full conceptual download. So number 4 is the super conscious, is the full awareness of whatever this download is, which is really what it is this transmission, this download is, and where it came from, what spiritual being it came from, what it means, what you're supposed to do with it. So you're fully consciously co-creating, engaging with this spiritual being, with this connection, whatever it is. And this is really profound. And what I want to say on this one too, which is just please hear me out on this, is you don't need to make it up. Again, because I've been around so many different spiritual circles and different things, that it kind of has become kind of like a status thing, or you don't feel like maybe you're enough. There's like this value and identity thing attached to this specifically, where you're like, yeah, the Arcturians told me that I'm supposed to do this, this, and that. And oftentimes when I hear people saying that, not that I'm like the queen of knowing everything, but when I hear people say that, I'm like, I can't perceive in your energetic field that you have the structure to have known super consciously that being was connecting with you and talking to you in that particular way. Because this is something that I've developed and I work on. But anyways, and so one thing that's very, very critical with this, and please hear me out on this, is that you don't need to feel the need to make this up. I see in a lot of spiritual circles and a lot of scenarios that I've been in that people wrap their identity or their spiritual growth or whatever, they feel like they have to have something exciting to say about a certain meditation or something. And so they'll be like, yes, the Arcturians told me that I'm supposed to go to this vortex in this location and download this thing. And some people are having that. I absolutely know and can feel that that's true. And often when I tune into certain people, I'm like, no, I think that's delusion. And so this is where the discernment comes in, especially if we're going to say that an actual spiritual being is informing us in this way. I would lean on the side of not saying that it was that spiritual being, and being very discerning and clear before actually, one, going and spouting that to other people, because it's really important to contain our spiritual experiences to some degree, which I have a video about. You can go check that out. And it's good, like I said, to acknowledge the experiences that you're having and where they're coming from. If you're having these super conscious experiences, fantastic. But if you're not, don't try and make something out of it just to feel validated or to know where it's coming from. Honor the stage that you're at. And so don't feel the pressure to say that it's coming from this certain thing in any way to make you feel like cooler or more valuable or something like that. It's really important, I think, to check in our spiritual community right now. But nonetheless, it is very possible and it is very exciting when these insights come through. So this can literally be where you meet someone and you're like, wow, this person's amazing. I know that I had this soul connection with them in this place, and this certain being came through to tell us that at this time we're meant to do this thing together. It can go to that level of consciousness and awareness, which is really exciting. But again, you don't need to force things or make things up. And I see this a lot where there's projections where it's like, you are my twin flame, my one beloved. And it's like a one-sided thing. And one way to check yourself is if the other person is also having that simultaneous experience. They might not be able to perceive it on the superconscious. Maybe they're only perceiving it on the subconscious. If there's some resonance of rapport with whatever's coming through, that's a really good indicator. And I do have another video on how to discern what spiritual beings are communicating with you, because there's lots of spiritual beings, but which ones are actually communicating with you? And there's ones, especially if we kind of have this like overexcitement / ego around this, that will tell you stuff all the time, but it might be inaccurate. So I suggest going and watching that video to make sure that you're discerning which beings you're getting perceptions from. But the key is that when you're in alignment, when you're humble, when you're in your heart, and just honestly doing your work one step at a time and moving forward in a gracious and compassionate and passionate way, then you will be generally connected with positive spiritual beings that are going to have your best interest at heart, and you will be in a space where you can receive clear and clean information. So I hope that this has been helpful. It's a very interesting and fun conversation. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any experiences or questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button, and the bell button when you subscribe so you get notifications every time I do new videos. And be sure to tune in next week with another video.